My name is Ross Cobb, and I make mostly Pinot Noir. The Cobb Wines we've been has been a family winery since 2001, and I founded the winery with my mother and father in 2001 after having planted the family Coastlands Vineyard in 1989 through 98. And then by 2001, I decided to pull back some of the Coastlands Pinot Noir from William Selliam's blocks and start Cobb Wines. So that's kind of the start of me. Yeah.
Did you just wake up one morning and start making wine, or did you go to school, or did you work somewhere else before you started Cobb?
I woke up one morning and I was 31. I was 31, and I was like, I'm gonna make wine. No, my father had always wanted to plant a vineyard, and we actually down in southern Marin, where I grew up, went to Tam High. My father was a big gardener, still a big gardener, and he had a little backyard, like 10 vine test vineyard in Mill Valley, actually, right outside my bedroom window. There's and he had like 10 or 20 vines. Then him and my mother went to the UC Davis and got, plant cuttings, and they took classes at Santa Rosa Junior College at night. What the heck? And and then after that, they sold the house that we grew up in, a little place on Locust, and moved up to Occidental. And I went to UC Santa Cruz and studied soil science and agroecology and sustainable ag under the environmental studies major, while my mother and father built this house and planted the vineyard. And then after college at UC Santa Cruz, I kind of followed them up to Sonoma County. I actually moved up to Sonoma County because there was a new skate park, and I was really wanting. So I moved up here because I was like, I can get a job as a lab tech field sampler at Ferrari Crono Winery or Iron Horse, or places I interviewed. And so I thought, okay, I can get a job, because I was broke. It was 1994. There's no jobs. I was broke, had no job, and a degree, but the economy was terrible in 94. So I thought I could move to Sonoma County and skateboard every day and work in a winery. So I can actually credit my skateboard, the park at Fulton Park, on Pioneer. I can actually credit that skateboard park to me getting into wine, because that was like my motivation. Like, I can actually do something cool, and I joined a couple bands. I was playing with Eric Lindell, local musicians, really great. So I started working at Ferrari Crono as a lab tech, entry-level lab tech, probably barely making $10 and an hour. And then I stayed there for 4 harvests and set up a soil lab, got really into it. My parents' vineyard was really successful. The quality of the Pinot Noir at William Selliam was amazing. Got me inspired to kind of take it to the next level. My dad had made home wine down in our garage, and I actually still have some 83, 84 Pinot Noir and Zinfandel that my dad made. So my dad was kind of a home winemaker, and then really wanted to get into grape growing. I followed him. And then after my 4 years at Ferrari Crono, I went to Bonnie Doon for less than a year. And then William Selliam for 2 years, making the wines from our vineyard, and Hirsch and Allen and Rocchioli and Precious Mountain and yada yada, Hawk Hill. And then after that, I decided I wanted to start Cobb Wines. So that's kind of brings us up to 2000, 2001. And then I worked at Flowers Winery for 9 years as the assistant and winemaker for 5 years, 6 years as the winemaker and 3 years as the assistant, and started Cobb Wines at Flowers Winery. So 01 was the first vintage of Cobb, and we used the Flowers facility, or I used the Flowers facility. And my mom and dad took a list of like 900 mailing list customers that I had collected and put together a mailing list. And gave my dad a Zagat and circled all the high-end restaurants and put him to work selling wines. So he got into 20, 30 restaurants in California and then New York, and then export to Japan. And then so then we met you guys, and you guys have been working with us for like 11 years, helping sell wine in California. So that's my history.
I like it. Well, I was working in one of those restaurants that your dad sold wine to, and as a server, and I really liked it when people ordered that wine, and I got to try some if they had any left over. I think it was Emmeline Ann. And so I was a fan of yours over the years. And when, fast forward, we own Springboard, and, I got connected to you and you were interested in us, I was like, I definitely felt like the prettiest girl at the prom. It was pretty exciting. So what in general do you make?
So Pinot Noir, as I said, the Coastlands Vineyard that we planted is 14 acres, and it's all Pinot Noir. So we basically are 100% Pinot Noir up until 2009. I made 100 cases of Chardonnay from this little vineyard called Joy Road that now goes to Dumal, but Pinot and Chard. Beautiful little vineyard that we made for 3 years. So that got us into Chardonnay in 2009. And then in 2006 or 2003, I picked up 2013, I picked up the Mariani vineyard. And so 13, 14, 15, 16, I made a little Mariani vineyard, tiny quarter-acre vineyard, still only 100 cases or so. And then now recently, I've added Riesling. So in 16 vintage, I started making Riesling from Cole Ranch, Vonnerberg, and now a new vineyard called Crystal Lane on Occidental Road. I just love that name. And so now I have 3 different Rieslings that'll be coming out in 20, and 2 Chardonnays. Going to start working with the old Dunant Chardonnay vineyard next year. So Chardonnay is about 500-600 cases total. Riesling's about 500 or 600 cases total, and the balance of it being about 3,500 total is with Pinot. But yeah, mostly Pinot Noir, and all vineyard does it. So no blends, no Sonoma Coast blends, just single vineyard.
And what would you say makes you different, your wine different? What sets you apart? Why should people care about Cobb versus other Pinot Noir out there?
Well, the big thing with just specifically with the Pinot is that all the vineyards are 3, 4, 5 miles from the ocean. So truly coastal, truly, West Sonoma coast. Starting to work with Anderson Valley now a little bit, but a similar kind of coastal deep bend Wendling Vineyard and Kaiser Vineyard Pinot Noir there. But specific to Sonoma County now, I'm doing 3, 5, 6 miles from the ocean. Rice Spivak is 6, and Coastlands is 3 miles from the ocean. The style is definitely not light in body, definitely very complex. Sometimes dark, sometimes not. Sometimes 12.5, sometimes 13.5 alcohol. A lot of whole cluster. Some of them are a little bit wound up. Some of them take 5-7 years to open up, like a little bit it's a reductive winemaking. Not that I like reduction, but like closed up and wound up wines that will age for 10, 20 years. So definitely more not on the rustic side, but definitely not fruit forward, but definitely bright aromatics, very aromatic wines I like. Not necessarily well structured because it's a Pinot Noir. They're more acid driven, but a lot of whole cluster, 50 to 70% whole cluster in some cases. So some of them have some decent structure, and they range from the Emmeline Ann to the Rice Spivak to the Coastlands and kind of concentration and intensity just based on the soils that they're in. A lot of clay soils up at Coastlands. So the style of wine I make is definitely, it's not Russian River. It's not, Anderson Valley style, blue fruit. It's more raspberry, light, bright cherry, but not overripe. that's kind of my style. And
What,
not a lot of new oak, 20-30% new oak, but then I age the wines for 20-30 months sometimes. So very like, because they're pretty wound up, and when they're young, I like to age them a little longer in less new oak, 20-30% new oak and the balance older barrels. That really allows the wines to kind of resolve in barrel before I bottle. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part of the whole winemaking process?
Drinking wine. That's the best part.
Right on.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say I love the process of following the vineyard, and the we're dodging the weather, and the fog and the wind and the rain and then the heat, and it's very challenging, especially this year. So I like the definitely I live on the property. My family we live on the property here. We have Docks Ranch, which is 9 acres next door to us. So we have 23 acres here. And so I love the process of just living and waking and, living and breathing, growing grapes, and then taking those grapes to the winery, to the whole process, and then selling it. I like being part of the whole process, like from planning and planting and deciding on a vineyard, and watching it mature and seeing how you can push the limits with whole cluster and fermentation with older vines as they could become more mature. That's really exciting. And then, following it through. And then, of course, watching the wines age and tasting, seeing how, for example, I had a 14 vintage wine last night that was from the Diane Cobb block here. And I'm just like, still wound up. It's fun, but it's going to be great in like a year. But some of my wines take, like I said, 5-7 years. And that's exciting. The wines are very, they have their own personality, so you never know when they're going to be accessible.
Worth the wait. I would attest. So, obviously it's been a difficult year. You guys have gone through some crazy, in addition to what's already been on the table, the crazy fire situation that in, Sonoma and Napa and other places. But has there been anything throughout this challenging year that's helped you cope? Like a hobby apart from drinking?
My family. Yeah, I mean, my daughter's 11, so that's been like the best thing, just to see her grow into a little kid and, start become her own brain. Seeing how she's kept me sane for sure. And, my wife and my daughter kind of keep me balanced, and they're my biggest fans. So that's helped me. That's been the bright side. I haven't been able to travel or, do much, but yeah, we had a very challenging year. And then the smoke from the Hallberg fire just north of Guerneville here, it eliminated our whole crop. So the smoke kit was so strong in mid-August that we so that was devastating, on top of a very beautiful harvest, potential harvest. We had 2.5 tons per acre here, one of the best crops, really beautiful quality, and we just had to walk away from it all. So that was absolutely insane this year. I have crop insurance that covers some of it, but it's not it's not a lot. And so dealing with the smoke and then the fires and then the potential evacuations, and on top of that, so I made very little red wine, mostly Chardonnay and Riesling this year, because of that. But yeah, what did I do to deal with all that? I was drinking some wine and some beer, and did some gardening. I planted a garden here for the first time in a long time with my daughter, which we planted way too many tomatoes, as people always do. Anyways, and then they all blew over in those big tropical storms that we had coming from the south that started all the fires, those electrical storms. The storm came from the south, and it blew my whole garden over, which is kind of a pain.
And so temporary.
I know. And so it looked like, anyways, yeah.
You had a soundtrack? I know your music matters to you. So has there been anything in particular that's kind of been your backbeat?
I do. I have a Spotify playlist. It's called 2020.
Do you really?
Started off on I think it's public. You can follow but it's got all of my. It's a distillation of my 500 song playlist, and then I just took all my favorite songs from that and then added some more stuff. But it's got everything from 80s stuff to some. It started off like it was supposed to be themed, like Time Tough by Toots and the Maytals, or just a lot of Jailhouse Set Me Free by Earth and Stone, and a lot of music helps. But from Off to On by The Knife, which is like because the power kept going off and on.
Yeah.
Good Times, Bad Times by Led Zeppelin. I started off kind of doing a theme, but then I just started putting more songs into it. So
how do you find that on Spotify? You just search Ross Cobb Daddy Spotify, or like?
I think it's associated with my Ross K Cobb which is my that's my Facebook thing.
So Ross K Cobb.
Look up Ross K Cobb, and that's where and you'll find it. And it's my 2020. There's a lot of other weird mixes in there too, but the 2020 mix is fun.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
That has helped me out. And then I've got my music in the back. I've got about 3,000 or 4,000 records here. I haven't counted, but listening to records, playing a little music. Actually, have my band practice today for the first time. First band practice day with a new musician. There we go. That's helped me had a little more time for music.
You have here's our final question. So it's really important. What's your drink? It can be wine, beer, cocktail, whatever. But like, if you had to take something to a desert island, what would it be?
Oh God. If I was on a desert island, it would be probably wouldn't have a refrigerator, right? Probably wouldn't have
You have a refrigerator. Come on. This is
wine fridge on a desert island. It's not really a desert island. It's oh God. I think probably a couple kegs of Modelo would be fine. Stay fresh, and you wouldn't have to like deal with glassware and stuff. But yeah, a couple kegs of Modelo Special would be good. That's probably by volume the largest amount of beverage that I have. Of course, I drink most of my own wine just because I have sample bottles and bottling line rejects that that are free kind of for me to drink all the time. So I drink a lot of my own wine, of course. I haven't been buying a lot of import stuff lately just because I've been kind of low cash this time of year. But there you go.
All right,
the standard winemaker drink, Modelo Special. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate the time. We worked hard to get this done, and it's lovely to see you, Ish. And
yes.
We'll, hopefully catch up in person at some point soon.
I hope so.